When I heard that Germany had just activated a $4.2 billion Israeli missile defense system, I had to sit down for a moment. Not because the technology surprised me. Israeli defense systems are among the best in the world. Not because the partnership was unexpected. Military cooperation between advanced democracies is routine. No, what stopped me cold was the sheer geographic logic of it all. For the first time in history, Jewish missiles are protecting Germany from Russian missiles, and it makes perfect strategic sense. Let me walk you through how geography, demographics, and energy politics have created one of the most remarkable reversals in modern international relations. Germany sits in the worst possible place in Europe. Always has, always will. Look at a map. Germany is surrounded by potential threats and has no natural barriers worth mentioning. The North German plain is basically a superhighway that every army from Napoleon to Stalin has used to move forces east and west. The Rhine provides some protection in the west, but the eastern approaches are completely open. For most of history, this geographic vulnerability made Germany the aggressor. If you can't defend yourself from your position, the logic goes, you'd better control your neighbors' positions instead. That thinking gave us 2 world wars and about 40 million dead Europeans. After 1945, the Germans tried a different approach. Let someone else handle defense while they focused on making money. For 70 years, this worked brilliantly. The Americans provided security, the Germans provided manufacturing expertise, and everyone got rich. But geography doesn't stay dormant forever. And now the Russians are proving why the German location has been a strategic nightmare for 1,000 years. Here's what makes this missile defense system necessary: a little piece of Russia called Kaliningrad. Kaliningrad is a geographic absurdity, a chunk of Russian territory completely separated from Russia proper, sandwiched between Poland and Lithuania on the Baltic Sea. It exists because Stalin wanted a warm water port and didn't care about the ethnic cleansing required to get one. Today, Kaliningrad is where Russia parks its Iskander missile systems. These aren't intercontinental ballistic missiles designed to hit Washington. They're short to medium-range weapons designed to hit European capitals. And from Kaliningrad, they can reach all of Germany. This creates an impossible situation for German defense planners. Traditional NATO doctrine assumes threats come from the east across the North German plain, but Kaliningrad sits to the northeast, creating a missile threat from an angle that bypasses most existing NATO defenses. The Germans need a missile shield that can handle short-range threats coming from an unexpected direction. And it turns out the Israelis have been dealing with exactly that problem for decades. Israel's Arrow defense system wasn't designed to stop Russian missiles. It was designed to stop Iranian missiles, another medium-range threat from a hostile neighbor with territorial ambitions. But here's what makes Israeli technology perfect for the German problem. It's built for the real world, not the testing range. Most missile defense systems are developed in sterile laboratory conditions and tested against predictable targets. Israeli systems are developed under constant threat and tested against actual hostile missiles fired by people trying to kill you. That's a very different engineering environment. The Arrow system has been intercepting real Iranian missiles for years. It knows how to handle decoys, electronic countermeasures, and missiles that don't fly in textbook patterns. Russian Iskanders are sophisticated, but they're not more sophisticated than what Israel faces from Iran on a regular basis. More importantly, Israeli systems are designed for rapid deployment and integration with existing infrastructure. When missiles are flying toward your cities, you don't have time for lengthy installation procedures. You need something that works immediately. That's exactly what Germany needs against the Kaliningrad threat. Let's address the elephant in the room. This is Jewish technology protecting Germany. 75 years ago, Germany tried to exterminate every Jew in Europe. Today, Jewish engineers are designing the systems that keep German cities safe from Russian missiles. If you told someone in 1945 that this would happen, they'd have assumed you were suffering from severe head trauma. But geography doesn't care about historical guilt or political symbolism. Germany needs missile defense against Russian threats. Israel makes the best missile defense systems in the world. The math is that simple. What makes this even more remarkable is that this isn't charity or diplomatic symbolism. This is a purely commercial transaction based on technological superiority and strategic necessity. Israel isn't defending Germany out of forgiveness. They're doing it because the Germans are paying top dollar for the best available technology. That's actually more significant than any symbolic gesture would be. It means the relationship is built on mutual benefit, not historical obligation. Those kinds of relationships last. What I find fascinating about this arrangement is how it changes NATO's technological foundation. For 70 years, NATO has been essentially an American-dominated alliance with European participation, American technology, American doctrine, American strategic thinking. Other countries provided troops and bases, but the core military architecture was made in USA. Now we're seeing Israeli technology integrated into NATO's defensive infrastructure for the first time. And this isn't some minor subsystem. This is primary missile defense for NATO's largest European economy. This matters because Israeli military thinking is fundamentally different from American military thinking. Americans build systems for global power projection. Israelis build systems for survival in a hostile neighborhood. Different priorities, different engineering philosophies, different operational concepts. Integrating Israeli systems into NATO infrastructure means integrating Israeli tactical thinking into European defense planning. That's going to change how Europeans think about threats, responses, and technological development. And frankly, European defense could use some Israeli urgency. Most European military procurement moves at the speed of bureaucracy. Israeli development moves at the speed of incoming missiles. Guess which approach produces better results? But this isn't just about missiles and defense contracts. This is about Germany finally accepting the energy realities that geography has always imposed. For 20 years, Germany convinced itself that it could build a modern industrial economy around Russian natural gas. They shut down nuclear plants, built massive pipeline infrastructure, and structured their entire energy strategy around the assumption that Vladimir Putin was a reliable business partner. Geography should have told them otherwise. Russia has always used energy as a weapon against Europe, always. But the Germans thought they could change that through economic integration and diplomatic engagement. The Ukraine war ended that delusion permanently. Germany lost access to cheap Russian gas and suddenly found itself facing the possibility of losing access to everything else if Russian missiles could shut down German infrastructure. That's what drove this missile defense purchase. It's not about protecting German democracy or supporting NATO solidarity, though those matter. It's about protecting the industrial infrastructure that keeps the German economy functioning. German factories can't operate if they're under constant threat of missile attack. German ports can't handle international trade if they might be closed by Russian strikes. German financial centers can't maintain their international role if their physical security is questionable. The Aero system isn't just defending German cities. It's defending German economic infrastructure against Russian energy blackmail backed by military threats. Here's something most analyses miss. This partnership works because both Germany and Israel are facing similar demographic challenges. Germany's population is aging rapidly. They need advanced technology to compensate for shrinking manpower in defense and industrial sectors. Israel has that technology, but they need export markets to fund continued development. Israeli defense companies can't survive on domestic sales alone. The Israeli military is sophisticated but small. They need international customers to achieve the economies of scale that fund cutting-edge research and development. Germany provides that scale. The German defense budget is now over $70 billion annually and growing fast. That's real money for Israeli companies, and it's the kind of long-term partnership that supports ambitious technological development. Meanwhile, Germany gets access to battle-tested systems developed by engineers who know that failure means their own cities get destroyed. That's motivation for excellence that you can't replicate in peacetime procurement programs. What makes this particularly interesting is how completely the Russians misunderstood the strategic dynamics they were creating. Putin's strategy for Europe was always about energy dependence and political fragmentation. Keep the Europeans divided, dependent on Russian energy and unwilling to invest in serious defense capabilities. For 20 years, it worked brilliantly. But the Ukraine invasion shattered that entire approach. Instead of intimidating Europeans into submission, it forced them to confront their strategic vulnerabilities and start building real defense capabilities. The German-Israeli missile defense partnership is exactly what Putin was trying to prevent. European countries building sophisticated defense relationships with non-NATO partners and reducing their dependence on American security guarantees. The Russians created the threat that forced Germans to buy Israeli missile defenses. That's not strategy, that's self-inflicted strategic isolation. What I'm really watching for is how this partnership evolves beyond simple procurement. Israel doesn't just sell weapons systems, they transfer manufacturing capabilities and technological expertise. That's how they've built defense relationships with countries like India and Singapore. They provide the technology, help establish local production, and maintain long-term partnerships that benefit both sides. If Germany starts manufacturing Israeli missile defense components domestically, that changes the entire European defense industrial base. Suddenly you have European factories producing systems that were developed under constant threat conditions and tested against real hostile missiles. That's a very different kind of defense capability than what Europe has traditionally maintained, and it could form the foundation for a genuinely independent European defense industrial base that doesn't depend entirely on American technology. The implications for NATO, for European strategic autonomy, and for the global defense industry could be enormous. This partnership represents something larger than just missiles and defense contracts. It's part of a fundamental realignment of international relationships based on geographic realities rather than historical alliances or ideological preferences. Israel is building defense relationships with countries based on shared security challenges, not shared values or historical ties. Germany is building defense capabilities based on geographic vulnerabilities, not alliance obligations or diplomatic traditions. Both countries are making decisions based on what geography and demographics actually require, not what their foreign policy establishments traditionally prefer. That's how international relations actually work when the comfortable illusions break down. Countries start making decisions based on physical realities rather than political preferences, and physical realities don't care about your historical sensitivities or ideological commitments. Looking forward, this partnership tells us something important about how the international system is evolving. We're moving away from the Cold War model of rigid alliance blocks toward a more flexible system of partnerships based on specific security challenges and technological capabilities. Countries are going to work with whoever has the best solutions to their particular geographic and strategic problems. That's actually more stable than the old system, because it's based on mutual interest rather than ideological alignment or historical obligation. When Germans buy Israeli missile defenses, both sides benefit. When Americans provide security guarantees, one side provides and the other side receives. Guess which relationship is more durable? When I look at Israeli missiles protecting Germany from Russian threats, I don't see historical irony. I see geographic logic finally asserting itself. Germany is located in an indefensible position and needs advanced defensive technology. Israel develops the world's best defensive technology and needs export markets. Russia provides threats that make the partnership necessary and profitable for both sides. The Holocaust was a moral catastrophe that killed 6 million people. But geography doesn't care about moral catastrophes. Geography cares about elevation, distance, natural barriers, and the placement of threats and resources. Today, Jewish engineers are designing the systems that keep German cities safe, not because of historical guilt or diplomatic symbolism, but because that's what the strategic situation requires. That's actually more meaningful than any symbolic gesture would be. It means the relationship is built on mutual benefit and shared challenges rather than historical obligation or political theater. And in a world where geography is reasserting itself against political preferences, that's the kind of relationship that lasts. The Arrow missiles protecting Germany today aren't a historical footnote. They're a preview of how international relations work when countries start making decisions based on what the map actually requires instead of what their diplomats traditionally prefer. Geography decides. Everything else is just paperwork.